bunch of injuries. The type of pain that I had was so severe that they just kept giving me these heavy drugs. So I ended up in like a fog, not able to function. I started taking the kratom as a tea and I started to feel a little better, got rid of the pain. My mind was definitely clear. I want us to talk to our legislators so they can promote policies that promote pure and safe kratom.
Go to protectkratom.org to tell your elected official to protect kratom.
And we're live. Okay, I can't see my meteor. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, welcome back to Canna-Heads ND, Season 2, Episode 6, your once-a-week podcast on the latest cannabis, local and national news every Sunday at around 7:30 p.m. Typically we go for about an hour to an hour and a half, but my name is Phil.
I'm Anthony.
And yeah, so welcome back to the show, everybody. Couple little housekeeping things or whatever that I'm dropping frames. So
while he figures that out,
I'll be right back.
I honestly have no idea what's going on right now. Cool.
Okay.
Got this?
All better now. Yeah.
Okay.
Take two. But yeah. Couple housekeeping things. I will be doing a election night stream on, well, election night on November 3rd. So, if you just kind of want to watch numbers with me, Anthony, you said, are you going on that or?
Yeah, I actually
Okay.
work until like 6:30
Yeah.
ish, Monday through Friday. So when we get down to election night, I'll probably join in
Yeah.
that night.
So, yeah, it'll be basically the way that I'm thinking of how it'll go is we're gonna it's gonna be only cannabis. Like we're not gonna be talking about presidential election or anything like that. By the way, for presidential election, I wouldn't expect seeing a uh, a result that day. It'll be a while because of the mail-in ballots. So yeah, we're not going to be talking about the presidential election or anything like that. We'll probably be talking about just cannabis in the states that are legalizing. So we'll kind of have like a little breakdown of the states, what their measure is, kind of like how it's going. I might have like a probability thing too. But yeah, we'll be doing like election coverage because that sounds like a little bit of fun. Um,
It does, and it happens once, once every 4 years.
yeah,
Might as well have some fun with it.
and I and
Um,
I think that it would also like help a lot with because we do have North Dakota. We have a lot of North Dakota viewers, but like I think it'll also help that they get updates that aren't in North Dakota, or if they have family in another state, it might be
sure
helpful.
enough. Also, the only thing that I really want to touch on when it comes to that is leading up to the election. I do want to point out vote, vote, vote. And for mail in ballots, my wife and I actually do mail in voting.
Yeah,
And just on Friday, Thursday or Friday, I went to my local courthouse, and I'm pretty sure every courthouse is going to have a drop box for ballots.
yeah.
So if you
Let's
would like to
also.
receive your. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, no, I was gonna. You can keep talking. I'm just gonna pull up the how to get a ballot thing.
Okay. If you are undecided or you are on the fence about mail in voting has been around since the Civil War. There's never been a significant showing of fraud to do with mail in voting. Okay. You are not committing fraud by getting a mail in ballot. You can mail it back. Again, there's been no showing of anything fraudulent to do with that. As I said, personally, my wife and I found more security in getting our ballots than and this is the cool part, is anybody that we didn't know, I can Google.
Right. Yeah.
I can look up and I can really understand who I'm voting for and why I'm voting for them. You know what I'm saying? And then didn't even have to mail it back. It just
Yeah, you can
courthouses,
drop
a
it
few
off.
blocks down the street and drop it off, and boom, I'm done.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's one of like the main reasons why some politicians don't want mail-in ballots, and that's because a lot of people don't really do a lot of research or do just research like while they're waiting in line. So they basically make up their mind
Hmm.
like an hour before type of deal, and well, in some cases it's longer than that, but like they make up their mind early and they're like educated voters, and then there's others that are it's not uneducated when I say this,
Well,
but
no, it
like
is.
yeah,
It is, and that's the problem. This is where suppressing mail-in voting or options in voting is where you really drive home the problem with party politics.
yeah,
Okay, because when I voted in 2018, I voted along party lines because I didn't understand who I was voting for. I had a couple of things on the ballot that I really felt passionate about,
right,
but when it came down to, I don't even know I don't remember who was on the ballot 2 years ago, but,
right,
I vote mainly Republican because
yeah,
I share a lot of Republican views, but now that I've had an opportunity to have the ballot come to me, I don't share like the really hardcore Republican values. I don't really share. And, like I believe in, the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to, private property or personal property, things like that. I firmly believe in constitutional rights, you
right,
know?
yeah.
things like that. But I'm not like super hardcore about other really hot button topics that I don't really want to get into.
Right. Yeah, and it allows you to kind of sit down and read it. I think that's another thing that North Dakota, as far as with Measure 2 is concerned, um, the people who do like mail-in ballots, if you search up Measure 2 right now, which actually, why don't we do that? Measure 2. Here we go.
I can't speak for Phil, and I can't speak for anybody else.
Oh,
I personally do not believe in Measure 2.
oh,
And it's not because I'm trying to sway anybody's opinion. It's that constitutionally it spits in the face of the right for the people to choose.
Right. And honestly, like my view, I think most people who have been involved in trying to get a measure on the ballot or anything like that, most of those people are usually against it, specifically because it kind of usurps their rights. And like they've done it before, so they kind of know like, hey, this is the challenges and everything like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you like look up Measure 2, this is just measuring two Measure 2, no North Dakota added to it. You basically have, citizen requirement for voting. Um, oh, this is a different measure. But yeah, focus on Measure 2, opposition group. Like, there's a lot of opposition to it. Actually, I bet if I do Measure 2, North Dakota 2020. Yeah, here we go. So differing views, like they kind of show like the different views of it. Measure 2 called into question. Yeah, Measure 2 called into question, KX News. So it's got a lot of hate on it. A lot of those people, they wouldn't, because they don't really know the specific measure for the issue-based elections, that they won't usually do that while standing in line, but when you're at home, you can Google it. Because
Yeah.
they give you a small little explanation on the ballot, but like they don't really
But
give you
here's the
that.
thing: when it came down to the choice that I just made in president, okay, I know the names: Donald Trump,
Right.
Joe Biden, Joe Jorgensen. Okay, do you really know what Joe Jorgensen is about?
Well, I think there's my buddy got into it with her on Twitter. But
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
it, yeah, there's not only Joe Jorgensen, Trump, or Biden. There's also in some states like Minnesota, for instance, Kanye West. So good on that one. But there's also Green Party. Um,
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember the other one.
Yeah, I'm
Either
pretty sure
way,
there was four that I could have
yeah.
chosen from this year.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't because I haven't got my ballot yet, but North Dakota I think um has I don't think they have Kanye West on it, but please don't vote for Kanye West.
Yeah, seriously.
Like there
Ugh.
is no chance that he wins because he's not on the ballot in every state. So
Now
unless
we kind of trailed here, and yes, I'm with you. What the fuck? What the fuck? How did that even happen? Honestly, um, yeah, I kind of trailed on that one.
yeah,
Mail-in voting is a beautiful thing because it leads to informed decision making, and that's where I said like when I did 2018, that's where I started trailing. Was I voted along a lot of party line unless I knew a Democratic candidate that really fulfilled my views or like was along my viewpoint, right? That's where you have a lot of voting along the party lines because most of the people that are getting in that line, they have an idea of like one or two things or one or two people that's on a ballot that they want to vote for. Well, then the rest of it you can leave blank, but who actually leaves it blank?
right, yeah.
So then most of the people you vote for are along your party line. So when you live in a state like North Dakota, that the lines going in and out of a polling place, the vast majority of it are going to be a lot of Republican ticks just because they're Republican.
Yeah, and that's also another thing is like the state, like another view that a lot of people have is, well, I live in a Republican state, so like me voting Democrat isn't going to do anything. Like it's not going to change anything. Yes, that is a huge problem with what's called the Electoral College. That the whole entire system of how ballots work has changed dramatically since it was first, in the Constitution. But just because you don't want to vote for president, there's also a lot of other issues. Say Measure 2, for instance, that even if you leave the presidential box blank, which good luck with that, but you can vote for vote no on Measure 2, for instance. What else is there? Let's see here. Go to SOS. It would just be elections. Ballot measures. 2000. Yeah, here we go. So here are the choices. There we go. So constitutional measure 1 would be the school board one. Yeah, North Dakota relating to the State Board of Higher Education. In subsection 2 would increase the number of board members from 8 to 15. Holy shit, that's a huge jump. Prohibit state legislators, elected state officials, employed full-time by the institution under the board's control from serving on the board. So that sounds like a good idea. Increase the term of appointment for board members from 4 to 6 years. And I actually just had somebody recently actually asked this question, like, what positive and negative impacts there would be for increasing term limits, not only for state board, but it would be also, forgot what the specific one was for because she wasn't in North Dakota, but like what the actual implications are. And there's two views. Oh, it was mayoral. It was mayoral. There's two views that I can think of. I don't know all of the opposing and negatives, but a smoother transition of, I guess, progress in the city, or say in this case, the state board, because a lot of people have different views than their previous predecessors, so it would be more of a smoother way of, if they're doing good in your view, it would last longer and would be able to get more things done because, you know, they have, well, in this case, 4 to 6 years. So they would have 6 years to get everything done rather than 4, and it would be more progress in that case. But on the other hand of that, if they are doing things that you don't agree with, or, you know, they kind of fuck up a lot, it would be a lot more destruction. So that's like the two things there. And it would also allow for, another negative of it would be somebody who knows that they're up for re-election on a specific year. They tend to want to like do more things for the people because, hey, I need your vote type of thing. Because a lot of people are kind of short-sighted when it comes to thinking of history and how they're making their decisions. So like, say, somebody who's like, hey, you guys don't even have to pay any income taxes. It's not a coincidence that that happened, that view and that idea and the executive order came out on the election year. If it wasn't the election year, we probably wouldn't have seen that. And by the way, if you have the ability to not pay income tax, please don't, because you end up having to pay that after everything's said and done. So it's a lot more money out of your pocket. But for the 4 to 6 years, they would have more time to fuck up. But also on the same hand, they would be able to get more things done. If you think that they're in a positive light and you think that they're doing something good, they would have more time to get something done rather than having to back off on that 4th year because election year. So that's kind of the move there. Again, they're not the only, that's not the only issues that would tackle, but that's just kind of what I can think of. If you want to vote mail-in ballot, I just posted it in chat, but basically if you go to there, otherwise if you just go to, let me just walk it through. So North Dakota Secretary of State's office website, then you would do, where did I go for this? Elections, voters, I think is where it went. This is basically the basics of voting in North Dakota. But somewhere in here is the mail-in ballot, and I want to say it's back here. Online address change, driver's license. I mean, I guess if you Google it, but
I was gonna say I just did vote by mail North Dakota in Google,
Yeah.
and it brought me to vip.sos.nd.gov/absentee.
Yep, and that's the link was basically that, but only to the application. But if you go ND Secretary of State, hit voting by absentee or mail-in ballot, hit the application, and it's a pretty simple, walk through thing. It's 9 steps, but a lot of it is just verifying the information that they pull. But basically, it would be asking you for your state issued ID, so driver's license or your actual state ID if you have no driver's license, date of birth. Then it'll verify this is your name, this is your address, that you want to vote in the election. And it would ask, this one's like an easy one. If you're a military or overseas veteran or overseas voter, you would hit yes. If not, no. So it's not a long process, is what I'm saying. It looks like it's a lot because it's 9 steps, but it really isn't a lot. And yeah, they will mail it out to you. The cutoff day, I believe, is it has to be postmarked by the 2nd, I believe. But let me double check. North Dakota mail-in ballot cut off. Voting information. Here we go. Here we go. So this is what is the voting by mail. I'm pretty sure it's the 2nd, or postmarked by. Oh, actually, no, it's postmarked by the 3rd, I believe. Either way, make sure to get it in as fast as you get it, because the mail, if my previous mail experience that happened like last week is any indication, Prime or Premier, not Premier, what is it called? Priority mail is not that fast anymore. So obviously you're not mailing your letter priority mail, but even if it's North Dakota to North Dakota, it can take a couple days. And like I said, we're not going to be getting the results right away because mail-in ballots, some states have, you have to vote by like the 30th type of thing. Other states have, you have to vote by the election. And yeah, and it's based on the time that it got put into the mail stream. So make sure to get them in as soon as possible. Again, do your research, but that's what I'm saying is make sure to get them in as soon as possible. So yeah, we'll be doing a stream on it on election night. It'll be a breakdown of, hey, these are the states that have cannabis on the ballot, and we're going to be looking at what the outcome of it is in each state, as it's kind of, I mean, like I said, it's not going to be perfect, but you'll get a lot of the poll numbers, and we'll have more concrete numbers. It can be like a couple of weeks, but yeah. Otherwise, if you guys like this show, or like yeah, go for it. If you like these types of shows, newsy type podcasts, KRFF, Radio Free Fargo at 95.9, which runs on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. with Greg Wilson, and he does his show that same day, like usually a couple hours later. It'll be on podcasting platforms, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the links that you have in the description down below, basically. So get on down there and find a podcast platform that you like, and you can listen to it. Otherwise, the next day it will be up on YouTube, which is where you're watching this. So yeah, we're also, I'm not 1,000% sure, but I am recording this one right now, so technically I could also put this show on there. If you guys want that to happen, shout it out in comments and places that I can see, because if it does have a lot of interest, I'll definitely do it. It's really not that hard. It's just a matter of, if it's wasted effort type of deal. So yeah, that was housekeeping. Welcome to the first 20 minutes of the show. Yeah, the next will go pretty well. We have a lot of stories, but Yeah. So, the title here, We Can't Fail, and that would be New Jersey. Um, New Jersey can't fail at marijuana legalization, says the governor. He said this at a fundraiser for the referendum campaign that is running. So his name is Phil Murphy. Hey, nice name. He's promoting the marijuana legalization referendum on the ballot in November this year. And he stressed on Thursday that the state can't fail at enacting the policy change this round after the legislative branch in their state failed to get it done in this past season or session. And he basically said, "Hey, we wanted to do it legislatively, but they came close. They didn't get quite as many votes as needed. So now it's on the ballot. We will do this responsibly. We'll do this the right way," he said. "We'll do it in a way that addresses head-on the social justice issues and creates the kind of opportunities that we're now robbing from too many of our fellow residents." Basically, he's understanding the fact that putting people in jail for smoking is not that great of an idea.
And is more dangerous than actually consuming it itself.
Yeah. And recent polling does indicate that the proposal has a strong support. A election company called, or election polling company called Brash Essler, I don't know how to say that name, released last month that there is a 65% chance that it goes in favor. So that sounds like a very good chance. If it's over 50%, that's a pretty decent chance. So.
And when do you ever hear of such support from a governor?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, is the fact that he came out and I mean, obviously he didn't like go out and say, "Hey, vote this," but it got picked up by a bunch of news organizations. People in New Jersey might be reading Marijuana Moment. Shout out to them, by the way. But their local newspapers also probably picked up on it, so it's getting a lot more view and a lot more attention that it deserves. And yeah, so that's awesome. So hopefully New Jersey does legalize very soon, and hopefully we see this one pass, because yeah, and we'll be following this on that show in November. So yeah. Governor? Yeah, the governor. But yeah, the next one's a little sad and a little bit confusing. So this actually got picked up, or a friend of mine is the one who shouted it out. That basically gave me the attention to it. Huge shout out to Jamie Stewart, by the way, for being awesome in basically political news in North Dakota. There's a bunch of other people too. I can't think of their name right now, but I do follow a lot of them. But a Bismarck area candidate, legislative, died just weeks before the conclusion of the general election due to COVID-19. And he was, his name's Andal. He was a Republican nominee for one of the District 8 House seats. The Supreme Court did recently rule that a person ineligible to serve cannot be on the ballot, but since the ballot has already been printed, because, I mean, yeah, it's been printed and it's out, that voting has started, and the Supreme Court precedent basically directs the solution to basically saying that the votes for a deceased candidate would be ignored, and it would be the next top two eligible vote getters that are elected. Again, it's not 100% sure that he gets elected, so like that's not, you know, that's a chance that that could happen. I think it was 2016 election, I believe. Nevada voted in a dead pimp into, I think it was their
Back
house.
the fuck up. What did you just say?
Yeah, Nevada pimp elected for office. Yes, this is
Get
it.
the fuck out of here.
His name was Dennis Hoff. He dies at 72. Wait, what? Oh, maybe this is the wrong one. There's a lot of pimps that die in Nevada. Um, oh yeah, it was 2018. This happened in 2018. Yeah, Dennis Hoff. He wins Nevada legislative branch after his death. That's him. With an HBO thing. I think he might have, I don't know. He won the, let's see, what was he running for? He was Republican, and he doesn't really say. Nevada's 36th Assembly District, which includes, yeah, but basically, yeah. I don't know what the outcome of this was. Um, he said an anti-brothel push and regulatory problems he faced this year were political retribution. Yeah, that's a crazy story. But he's a Republican running for State House. Secretary of State Al Jagger, I don't know how to say his name.
Everybody calls him Al Jager.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember the name of that song. Uh, like Mick Jagger. What
Mick
was this?
Jagger. Yes, that's the name I always think of too.
Yeah. He on Monday said that the general election ballot can be changed after his death, as mail-in ballots have been sent out as of September 24th, and as of Tuesday afternoon, about 1/5 of the 5,610 ballots mailed to voters in District 8 had been returned. So that's a particularly big amount. Votes for him will be counted, according to Yager. Should Andal win, he said the remedy is the process of filling vacancy in a sitting legislative seat, which falls on the person's district party. So his view is a little bit different, but not by much. It would be basically, if he wins, it would just still be a vacant seat, and then it would be that party's choice of who they would like to put in, which would probably be the next candidate in line there. So, well, there's probably only two in the district. Yeah. Basically, what's going to end up happening is if he does win, the Republicans will just be able to pick whoever they want, which is kind of fucked up. But if he is one of the two candidates who receive the most votes in District 8 of the House of Representatives, a vacancy will then exist. Legislative Council Director John Borson said, "What happens after the election depends on the results." So essentially, they're like, we don't really know. So hopefully, District 8 is Bismarck. So that's actually that's the biggest city in North Dakota. So let's hope that they know before before counting. But yeah, that's going to be kind of an issue that probably will get brought up if he does win. So be on the lookout for that. And if it does come back, we will definitely be following up on it. And I might do a little bit of research to try and figure out if there's North Dakota Supreme Court precedent or federal, which would basically be the easiest answer to this kind of a problem. The next one is it actually going to Supreme Court, which if there is no precedent for it, which there very well might be, the Republicans would then be able to pick who, then it gets challenged, it goes to court, and then it gets to Supreme Court through that process. So, yeah. And honestly, this doesn't happen often, but the fact that if there isn't precedent for this, we need to have precedent for this. This isn't going to be the only pandemic or the only time that somebody dies while running. So it should be a thing that should be looked at in a high regard. So it's not like, oh, they're trying to like, make their own decisions. Like the Republicans are trying to make their own thing and they just want to throw whoever they want or whatever. They're in full control. It's not the case. Even if they do that, it's just a way to start the actual process for there being precedents for this and or possible legislation written for this exact thing. So it's a good thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Popular take, but yeah. So yeah, and then let's see here. This one kind of blends together. But there is scientists, so people that kind of understand the actual chemical and, the possibilities of cannabis. Um, the lawyers representing a group of scientists and military veterans filed a comprehensive brief in federal court this week outlining their case challenging decisions about the classification of marijuana made by the DEA. The plaintiffs initially filed their lawsuit in May, and the DEA's justification for maintaining it a Schedule 1 substance or Schedule 1 status for cannabis is unconstitutional, is what they're saying. The DEA attempted to quash that case, filing a motion to dismiss, and it got rejected in August. So here's the actual argument here. Focuses on their denial to reschedule marijuana. Earlier this year, in that case, that petitioner argued that the agency's claim that cannabis has no currently accepted medicinal value is invalid, given that the majority of states have legalized the plant for the therapeutic purposes. The one big loophole with that is it's recommended. They're recommendations for it. And that's the reason why you have that significant line drawn in the sand of prescription versus recommendation. And I think that's kind of like the loophole that the DEA has been using. While it has no therapeutic While it has no therapeutic purposes according to them, it's being recommended to people, which means that there should be evidence to back that up before it becomes a prescription. So that's their loophole. They also, this one's a crazy one, and yeah, so the plaintiffs made a second legal argument, which is a little weird, and I dug a little bit more into it. They say that the DEA's insistence that cannabis should be placed on Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 is unconstitutional because it delegates legislative power twice, first to DEA and the second to Attorney General. And that's basically them saying that the international treaties, so now we're talking about international, so the entire world, international treaties that the agency has cited as restricting the authority to reschedule. So that was a crazy argument there. And the reason why they have this, and it's funny because this happened, this was supposed to be on last week's show. This happened a week ago, and just a week later, 2 days ago, they're also talking about it on the global scale. So the WHO, World Health Organization, made a recommendation to remove marijuana from the most restrictive global drug scheduling category, and that category is Category 4. But
I love the smooth transition there.
Right? But the Category 4 is basically what Schedule 1 would be. So, they're kind of backwards. So, the higher the number on a world platform, the worse it is. The lower the number, the better it is. So they are basically only really doing this specifically so that CBD can be classified as not Schedule 4. Probably one with, medical value, because they are finding a lot of medical purposes, and that's kind of a problem when you're saying, well, the thing that you get that from has no medical purposes, but the final product has medical purposes. That makes no sense. So the recommendation would basically do a clarification that CBD containing no more than 0.2% THC isn't a controlled substance under international treaties, which would help with basically the globalization of the production of CBD, and also the World Health Organization. I don't know what would it be like. Science. I don't know how to explain it. The global medical industry and view. So basically,
I guess that is the WHO to me.
right? That's what I'm saying. But the WHO is like an arm of it. I don't really know how doctors work. I just know that if I go in there with a cold, they give me something to not have a cold. But we've all heard a lot about the WHO, and there's been a lot of differing opinions and views. How they the, the insane people in office, not saying the name, thinks that the WHO is just trying to cover up for China or something like that. They still are a valid source of information. Um, and so basically, it's been 1961 is when this international treaty was signed, and that's where it adds cannabis to Schedule 4, um, which is the most controlled category. So that would be where heroin and meth, I don't know what else, that would be basically where the worst of the drugs and the most they have no medicinal value of the drugs lies. And obviously that's the problem. That's the reason. So Prue, the one of the guys that are the what is he? Oh, I should have written this down.
I was gonna say you're on this whole rabbit hole that I have
It
no
is.
idea where we're going.
It is, but basically, one of the people trying to get it categorized lower, they basically say that oh, I'm hearing myself for a minute. Okay. The status or stigma of being on Schedule 4 does not prevent the dramatic escalation of cannabis use, and it is unlikely that removing it will lead to any increase. On the contrary, to those who are skeptical of warnings that cannabis abuse can be harmful, and here we know that youth are particularly at risk, keeping cannabis and cannabis resin on Schedule 4 despite scientific evidence will signal that the Commission is tone deaf and out of touch. And he then went on, or she then went on to say, they will ask why. Why do we need a commission of narcotic and drugs? Why do we need a scheduling process if they do is make drugs even less accessible to those in pain and suffering? Which is a complete 180 from what the view was a while back ago. Pat, okay, here we go. The attorney advisor at the U.S. State Department is who that is. They used to have a pretty strict stance against rescheduling it. So this is a good change that's happening, and hopefully we can start at CBD, and then we
Yeah.
can also go to THC.
What's going on with Delta 8 right now?
That would be under, I think that's under DEA rules, and I think when is the deadline for that? DEA rules. There we go. Maybe it's under, I know it's under a marijuana moment thing. When is the deadline for this? Here's concerns. I think the deadline is at the end of the month, if I remember correctly. Proposed rules for hemp and CBD. Because I know they have a yeah, I don't know. There's a deadline for the commentary period. GA commentary for CBD rules. It would be under there. Interim rules, interim final rule. So I guess it did go through. Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that. You just reminded me. So next week we'll talk about Delta 8 for sure. But yeah, basically I'm hoping that we start off with CBD, and once we see that one of the things in cannabis has a medicinal value, then we can start talking about the other thing that's more controversial having a medicinal value. So that's kind of the view here, and the fact that it's happening on a world stage essentially allows for more commentary from other countries, and like Israel, for instance, is kind of the biggest, or is it Israel? What's the one where like pretty much everything the people who made the like printable.
Pretty sure that was Israel.
Yeah. So basically, they've been kind of like the people who break a lot of the news and a lot of the research regarding it. So hopefully, their impact or their views and comments also can be taken in and used in the U.S. government. So hopefully, and especially this, another one is if it does get rescheduled as like a lower one, then there is absolutely no explanation of why the US would see it as no medicinal value. If it's on a world stage of having medicinal value, then on a state or on a federal stage, it should have a medicinal value. So, yeah. Um, that's the wrong one. Oh, because wow, okay. So, the city of Ann Arbor, which is in Michigan, Michigan be crazy, yo. Uh, the city of Ann Arbor has decriminalized plants, psychedelic plants, and fungi, which include mushrooms. Police will no longer make an enforcement focus on this. The city council, basically on September 21st, had voted in favor, declaring the city's lowest law enforcement priority. So it's still on a statewide, it's still illegal, but in Ann Arbor, it won't be looked at, basically. Authorities won't investigate or arrest anyone regarding the planting, cultivating, buying, transporting, distributing, engaging in practices with, or possessing euthogenic plants. I think that's the right way to say that. Or other plant compounds. So that's pretty big.
Entheogenic.
Entheogenic?
Entheogenic.
Entheogenic. All right, we're going with
I
that.
have no idea what the hell entheogenic means, but
Let's
fuck it,
Google
we're
it.
gonna roll with it.
Entheogenic plants. I'm guessing that's just like basically any kind of psychedelic fungus. Are defined as plants and natural sources such as mushrooms, cacti, iboga, that's another word I can't say, containing plants and or extracted combinations of plants similar to ayahuasca. I actually remember saying that word before. Ayahuasca and containing compounds such as indole, animides, tryptamines, which is magic mushrooms, and phenylamines. I don't know. Basically, mushrooms and their psychedelic views, or and their psychedelic effects. So, yeah, that's pretty much a little short story, but it's it's interesting, and I think a lot of people might like have noticed. A lot of people have they obviously have their cannabis focus, but it's also been a natural focus. So, what's the point of basically having the farm pharmaceutical form of like CBD, for instance, Epidiolex, I think is what it was called. There's a pharmaceutical form of CBD. What's the point of having a pharmaceutical for something that is natural and can be purchased fairly easy and is not, a lot of work to actually cultivate? And I think it also helps a lot that it's in natural, because most of the things that are pharmaceutical, or at least that help um, with your mood and pain and everything like that, your body produces these things. Yeah, Epidiolex, Diolex, I don't know.
Epidiolex.
Epidiolex, yeah. So most of the things that are pharmaceutical compounds are usually either suppressing something in your body or a alternative to things in your body. So you have cannabinoids in your bloodstream all the time. You have pain. Well, it would be an opioid. You have a methamphetamine that your body naturally produces, and that's in low concentrations. Well, that's the same thing that happens in plants. It's in low concentrations. It's when you put it into a pharmaceutical and make it 3 times or 5 times as powerful, that a lot of people are kind of seeing like it it might be medically sound to take that much, but do I really need to take a thing that's 5 times as strong as morphine, for instance, uh,
Mhm.
to kill pain when I can start on the lower end with the, I don't know what, or poppy plant, which don't do that, or kratom, for instance, um, that there's a natural substance that you can take to at least see if it helps before jumping the pharmaceutical route. And a lot of people's view when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and my view as well, um, they don't really care about people or their patients or anybody that they help. Um, Nobody is in the pharmaceutical business to help people. It's to make money, and it's a necessary need that people can't live without, quite literally. And because of that, the the drive that your sales won't go down, and you got a huge, you don't have to sell anybody on anything. You have a lot of people who need this one natural substance, and you just so happen to have the pharmaceutical form, and you've taken it through clinical testing and everything like that, and a doctor will even advertise it for you, essentially, that a lot of people have that view that that's bad. And that's the reason why we're seeing a little bit more of the mushrooms being legalized or psychedelics being legalized, because it also does have medicinal value. And there's actually studies. Ecstasy is one, or what's the
There's ketamine,
ketamine?
uh,
Yeah,
psilocybin. Golly.
MDMA. That's the one. MDMA. That's not a naturally occurring substance, but in a small form, um, what it starts off as nutmeg essentially has that compound. I don't know the specific name of it, but that's a stronger form of whatever it is in nutmeg. But mushrooms and ketamine actually, is that naturally occurring though? What
I don't
plant would
believe
have the
so.
ketamine? Yeah, but tryptamines essentially. For me, for instance, I for migraines, one of my options is a tryptamine. That comes in turkey. Um, I don't know the specific how exactly it all works and all that, but there's naturally occurring substances that are pharmaceuticals. Most of them are, or are stronger forms of that naturally occurring thing. So we're seeing a lot of people trying to go natural, organic type of view type of deal. And that's a very healthy look at life, that you would like to take something that isn't 6 times as strong as morphine, for instance. Even if it gets you there faster, or like to no pain, at least you can start off at a lower dose and kind of build up for there for when it actually helps, rather than just jumping from level 1 to level 5 like immediately. There's no good way to do that. So, and it also helps the fact that a lot of people don't view the pharmaceutical industry well, and I can definitely understand that. And yeah, that's basically kind of why we're seeing that. Bernie Sanders.
Oh
This
boy.
this one's gonna shock you. This one is going to absolutely shock you. He is basically, he's in Vermont, or is it Virginia? No, it starts with a V.
Uh,
Vermont. Vermont.
yeah, it's Vermont.
So he basically is saying, "Hey, good job, Virginia or Vermont, the 11th state in the country to legalize, and also for expunging past marijuana convictions. Now is the time for Congress and federal government to end the war on drugs and legalize marijuana nationwide." He also added a pretty good statistic here. The number of Americans arrested for possessing marijuana in 2019, 500,395, and the number of Americans arrested for violent crimes in 2019 was 495,871.
Yeah,
There
I'll
are
be
more
right back.
people, yeah, there are more people. Oh, I guess I'm opening his Twitter. All right, cool. Um, there are more people that get arrested for cannabis than there are for violent crime. So yeah, that's basically the story there. He also did talk about, and he's actually talked about it before too. Um, he had basically said that he had smoked twice, and all he did was cough his guts out. So it didn't work for me. But he did this apparently. He said this in Las Vegas, but he also said that he understands other people have had different experiences. And he also said that in a radio interview, my recollection is I nearly coughed my brains out, so it's not my cup of tea. He had it in a radio interview. So he has inhaled. He has smoked and inhaled. So, yeah, it's just a fun story before we get into the. It's not super controversial, but yeah. So, other than that, we'll go into Wisconsin here. Anthony kind of stepped out for a minute, but let's just kind of cover the bases here. Wisconsin, this is going to be kind of like the long form part of it. In Wisconsin, you can get 6 months and $1,000 fine, but you'll get a misdemeanor. Open it. Oh, there we go. Nice. That's a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. So in Wisconsin, your first offense is a misdemeanor, 6 months, and $1,000 fine. Anything after that is a felony, 3.5 years, and a $10,000 fine. These are maxes. Anything sale or delivery or cultivation, felonies, and these are the years. So Madison, Wisconsin, which is the capital of Wisconsin, is seeking to expand the marijuana decriminalization ordinance that would allow adults to possess and consume cannabis in private and public settings with certain restrictions. The proposal would build on the capital's existing decrim policy that's been since 1977, which is kind of nice. That they cover possession of up to 112 grams of cannabis in a private area. Their new view and what they're trying to enact would expand it so that people 18 years or older could possess about an ounce. So it lowers the amount of marijuana in public without fear of prosecution, as well as long as they have permission from the area's manager, such as landlord or business owner, could have it on public property. So you would be able to, I don't know, it's weird the way that this is said. City council majority backs allowing public marijuana use in Wisconsin state capital. I don't know about that one, but it would allow people on, well, I don't know how it would work with Section 8 housing, but it would allow renters to have it. It would allow people who have medicinal needs for it to take it to work. So it would basically allow that. So essentially, and this is kind of the nuclear take, I might say, essentially cannabis, or essentially Madison is what I would call TM, trademarked, not really, cannabis sanctuary city. They are basically a sanctuary city when it comes to cannabis laws, because in the entire state, these are the laws. In the city, they're a little bit different. They're a little bit more lax, and that has to do with the amount of the direction that the police in the city take. So I'm pretty sure if you still get pulled over by a state trooper, you're probably looking at these things. But if you have it in a car and it's not in your trunk, please put it in the fucking trunk. Let's not make things worse for people here. So the nuclear take here is basically they're a cannabis sanctuary city, and it's kind of fucking stupid. Since 1977, how many years is that? Calculator. 2020. minus 1977. 43 years. They have had 43 years of it being legal. At some point, how, because a lot of people say, well, you know, we don't want to legalize it in our state because, you know, Colorado has these problems. We don't want to legalize it because look at what's going on with medical in California, or what was going on with medical. They're basically saying there's a lot of statistics saying that this is bad. Okay, you have had 43 years in this city to gather enough information to see what works and what doesn't. You've had 43 years to get enough statistics regarding the different types of issues that come from this. At some point, you've got enough information to make a decision. This city thinks that they have enough information to make a decision. Thank God. But they're the second largest city in Wisconsin by about 50%. Like the biggest one is, I think when I looked, it was like 800,000, and Madison is like 500,000 or something weird like that. So they're the second biggest city. Why wouldn't it work for anything lower? Let's start off with anything lower. Why wouldn't it work for a third biggest city, or the fourth, or the fifth? Because a lot of people say, you know, it's also because of the amount of crime in the area and all of this stuff. The bigger the city, the bigger the crime is usually what it ends up being, or the bigger the statistics of crime. So obviously they've had, what was it, 43 years? Yeah, exactly. They've had 43 fucking years to gather statistics and figure out what works and what doesn't, what they would do different, and anything like that. And why doesn't the entire fucking state just take that information and be like, well, you know what? This is how it should be. Why does this city have to have city council meetings talking about essentially allowing something that their state didn't allow in the first place? Why do we have to have those kinds of city council meetings? The fines are fairly low. The incarceration period is also fairly low. So it's not a major problem. Because if it was, it would be like 15 years or something crazy like that. If you view it as a bad thing, it's going to be more incarceration. Well, it's 3.5 years if it's the second time you get caught. Tops. That's the max. So yeah, and the fact that they are treating possession, so any amount, your subsequent offense, 3.5 years and a $10,000 fine, and also sales or delivery, 3.5 years or a $10,000 fine. You're viewing it in the same fucking view. At least fix that first. Like, somebody in possession is not selling. And if you also have no amount, any amount, why do you have a limit for sale then? Like 200 or less, 200 to 1,000, 1,000 to 250 or 2,500. Wisconsin just fucked up. That's all I gotta say. Like, yeah, and I don't know if there's they do have yeah, they have medical CBD. Oh boy, they have a medical CBD law. Local decriminalization. Let's look at the local decrims. So this is Wisconsin, and all the cities in Wisconsin that have a local decriminalization. This is the state. Right here. Wish I could, yeah, there we go. So like you got, why is the Wisconsin Dells not? Whatever. You got all of these. You got the other side of Winona, basically. You got all of these cities that have a decrim of one form or another. Appleton, no more than 25 grams, passed in 1965. There's another big one. A lot of information. You could have gotten a lot of information here. These are decrims, so it's a $200 fine. But they're even talking about it not even being basically anything. So essentially what I'm trying to say is the view of, oh, well, the crime rate is going to go up, or, oh, we don't really know if it has medicinal value, or we don't really know the implication of crime going up, and all of this shit is fucking complete and utter fucking bullshit. It has nothing to do with that. And I know a lot of people are like, well, it has to do with incarceration rates and everything like that. I don't know what it actually has anything to do with. But I do know for a fact that the thing of we don't have enough information or there isn't enough, we don't know what the implications would be. You've got cities that are already being like, you go figure that out. You have fun trying to figure out what the implications are. We'll actually do it and actually know what the implications are. Shit needs to change with that. I don't know. What do you think? Are you there? Oh, you're super quiet.
Am I muted?
You're really, really quiet. I don't know if it's just only me though. Nope.
It's probably because I dipped out for that minute and it adjusted itself.
No. Do you want me to do it on my side? I can do it on my side.
Recording, mic, properties. Get my level back. 56.
Huh?
How's that?
That's much better.
Okay. Pieces of Earth.
But yeah, I don't know.
All I was saying was that was simply put, like the simplest. It just I can't. And as I said in the chat, I was dicking around, but I can't believe this is still a thing. I had no idea that Madison was a sanctuary city.
I mean, that's probably the best way to explain it. Like, I don't know if that's an actual term,
but I can't believe that shit. That it's been over 40 years that the capital city has been trying to protect cannabis users. It's 2020, dude.
Right.
Like, swaths of our nation are legalized. Like, legalized. Okay? Not just medical, whatever. Legalized. And this is still a thing. And then we have old fucks at the top basically saying, yeah, nope, still not good with change. Even though, like, at a state level, they're doing whatever they need to do to stop destroying their own people over such ridiculous things. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I said earlier when we started this, the most dangerous thing about cannabis is getting caught with it. So it blows me away. And like a governor, a fucking governor,
right, in New Jersey,
is the biggest cheerleader right now for the legalization of cannabis in his state. How the fuck are we still back and forth with the DEA?
Yeah, essentially, I think honestly, this entire thing was a really good workflow. I didn't even plan it, but okay, New Jersey, the governor there is realizing the amount of tax revenue that they can get from this, the the money saving aspect of incarceration and the God, what's the name when you go to court? The prosecution, that's the word. The prosecution of this, because that costs money. Yeah, well, litigation, I guess, would be one. Yeah, the litigation costs or the prosecution costs, the incarceration costs, the amount of money that you would be able to recoup by doing it through tax revenue, the jobs that it would create. Because it's not only you can go and buy, it's people will be able to open up stores and hire people, and a lot of the people who smoke may have gotten caught in the past. It would allow for those people who, might get a felony or something like that. Like, say for me, for instance, if I apply for anywhere, like, okay, in certain states you can't do this. I know in North Dakota you can't, but like if I have a felony and I apply for like Walmart, I can't even get fucking Walmart. If they legalize and they have enough wording in there that a felon can work there who has gotten like a marijuana conviction, that would be a huge lifesaver to people who do have felonies, and that would keep them from reoffending. That would keep people from, uh, you know, basically living off of unemployment and or the food stamps and all of that stuff, cash assistance. It would help people find work. It would help people find housing. It would help people. It has so many positives. And then we got Wisconsin, for instance, saying, well, crime bad, crime bad. That's why. Like, like I said before, there's no like I don't know the specific purpose of why Wisconsin specifically. I'm just saying most people, if they're against, that's their view is, oh well, you know what? When Colorado legalized, even though there's actually evidence saying the otherwise, when Colorado legalized, there was a spike in crime rates around dispensaries. Okay, that also has something to do with the banking laws. So, yeah, I just don't understand it. And I think sanctuary marijuana city is probably the best way to explain it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's also the way that cannabis has revolutionized or innovated. I don't know what the technical term would be, but like when I first started smoking, which was, see, I don't know, like when I was in sophomore year of high school. That's what I know. I just don't remember what year it was, but um, concentrates and stuff like that wasn't really a thing, and now they are a thing. And the problem with that is now concentrates are being treated as basically felony. Even if you have like a single dab, it's almost a felony. Um, so obviously laws need to change in the first place. So you might want to look into possibly changing it for the better and not making it worse. And in some states, it hasn't even really, it's been rewritten to have concentrates in it, or it's already had concentrates in it when they were talking about like edibles. But people with a single dab in their pocket or something like that, which would be weird to have in your pocket, but are getting felonies and like facing like serious time because it's hash at that point. It, if you're going to be looking at least modernizing, which I don't think you want me to go on a rant of modernizing laws, but uh basically if you're going to work on modernizing laws, might as well look into the statistics of why do we need to have this law this way? Why don't we make it easier on ourselves and save us a shitload of money and just make the state a shitload of money instead? Why don't we do that? Because I can guarantee you, if this person got 3.5 years and had less than 200 grams and was charged for sales, and he actually got the max 3.5 years and $10,000 fine, I can almost guarantee you they're not paying that $10,000. Like, pretty fucking sure of it. And if they are, it's going to be over a very long time. You can make that $10,000 in tax revenue in a week. I mean, what did Illinois do in a week? Like 100,000?
It was a lot. I remember that because like we were like, yeah, first we was mind blowing, then we did a show the next week and it was just mind numbing because they like quadrupled
Yeah.
what they had pulled or something like that. It was insane.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know like what the economy is in Illinois, but I'm going to take a very wild guess and say it's much better. But yeah, especially like I said, if we're looking at modernizing laws, because okay, let's put one into perspective. Copyright law, the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. There are people who are uh, professional at fighting those. Um, the only reason why that law exists is so that large corporations like Disney and 21st Century Fox, and the RIA, basically when we're talking about MPAA, RIA, the people who are a part of that, essentially, to stifle innovation of the industry. That's essentially what it is. And yeah, they are doing it to protect their rights, but then you're also talking about trademark laws and how those work. And if you look at Disney's history, for instance, in trademark laws, um, I think there was like a knockoff like Mickey Mouse at one point that they completely sued the dude into fucking oblivion, like to the tune of like $100 million or something insane like that. This is a thing that occurs on a daily fucking basis. At least try to figure out the problems in the way that people are abusing it, because a lot of people view laws as a thing to abuse, as a thing to
Mhm.
try to find a loophole to. That is what lawyers do. Um, at least try to fix those, and if you're in there, you might as well try to see what the actual purpose and reasoning is for that law. So yeah, side tangent on that, but I'm just saying, um, 2020, we have an election every 4 years, to 2 to 4 years, primaries and generals. We have an election then. Why don't we start actually looking at those laws? Mind blowing. But yeah, that's all we got. Um, unless you have something.
No.
Okay. I know it's a short one. I know it's a very short one, but yeah, if you like this video, make sure to share it. Also check us out on YouTube at Canna-Talk ND. And if you like the show and you want more, check out Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, or Canna-Talk with Wilson, 95.9 at Radio Free Fargo, every Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. or a couple hours later on your podcasting platform of choice. Really trying to push that because we actually have been getting a lot of really good feedback and interaction with our content on that. So huge. Okay. Huge for our size.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. It seems to be working, so tell your friends. Otherwise, it'll be on YouTube the next day. And I'm going to try something. Canna-Heads will do on a podcasting platform tonight, and we'll see what happens. Maybe people will like it in a podcast form. We'll still be doing it live. It'll still be live because it's a lot easier to do something like this live because I'm much better at doing live things than pre-recorded.
Not to
So
mention, if more people start getting involved or whatever, then we can have live engagement with other people. And honestly, moving forward, if any of you watching this now or watching this in the future, if you want to join us on Sunday nights and you have questions or you want to share some of your insight or whatever, or correct us when we say something stupid, you know what I'm saying?
which I say
More
a lot.
engagement, the better.
Right. Yeah, and actually there is another thing that's not 1,000% sure if we're qualified for it yet, but I think we might be, since we're in possible sponsorship territory, which doesn't mean that we're doing sponsorships, by the way. I know Radio Free Fargo does get sponsorships. I'm not 100% sure how the money works. I do this shit for free, so I don't give a shit. But there'll be a call-in line on Anchor, possibly, which is a thing, which would be kind of nice. I think it would be kind of cool to get, like, not like live. There might be one. We might do a live call-in thing. But yeah, we're gonna be. This is still gonna be a thing, is what I'm trying to say. And if you have any ideas or you want to reach out and guest host even, totally up for it. Yeah, and I'm also kind of shopping. By the way, that advertisement that you saw at the beginning is totally me doing it. They're not paying me any money or anything like that. ProtectKratom.org. Just yeah, go to that. Actually, why don't we go on it right now? It's the AKA, what is it? American Kratom Association, I think is what they stand. Yeah. It's American Kratom. I don't know. Yeah, American Kratom Association. They are people who basically are a watchdog group in regards to laws that would basically kill kratom in that state. They have saved quite a lot of states. Gotten involved with, well, involved would be a very light term. Sent an email once in a certain state. I forgot which one it was, but they were trying to legalize, or they were trying to make it illegal. Turns out that they just were A, very confused, and B, didn't really know that there was already work in progress for like a control for the from the AKA, which is the KCPA, the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which is basically the answer to a lot of people's issues with kratom. It essentially sets up a system of testing, of sales and regulations for sales, and while some of their methods and purposes are a little bit iffy, in regards to how stringent they are with their testing, kind of stifles small businesses, but their view and their idea and the KCPA, a very solid foundation, which a lot of states that have tried to make it illegal actually end up talking about and possibly passing. Yeah, they're basically the people who keep kratom legal. So check them out, very much so. And they're actually running ads on CNN and Fox, and that's what the ad that you saw at the beginning was. Again, no money changing hands or anything like that. I should probably make that pretty fucking clear. They don't give me money. I'm not doing an undisclosed sponsorship is what I'm trying to say. Okay. But yeah, so huge shout out to them. Check them out. And yeah. I don't know where did this come from? Podcasts. Yes. If you want to get involved, if you want to guest host or anything like that, we can have 3 people, we can have 4 people, we can have, well, let's try to keep it at 4. We can have as many people as we want. The only thing you need to do this show is essentially a voice, a quiet room, and Skype. So you don't even have to do it on camera.
Not even necessarily along our beliefs.
Yeah.
Opposing point of view is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, actually, honestly, if you are somebody who doesn't believe in, or if you know somebody, let's go with that, because I'm guessing you're probably watching it because you believe in cannabis being legal. If you know somebody that isn't, I would absolutely love to debate them. I was a part of the debate club in California when I was in high school, so I can kind of stand my own. Not the best, but yeah, it would be great. And if you have any ideas or topics that you want covered, also huge shout out on that. Throw it in the comments. But yeah, my name is Phil.
I am Anthony.
And this has been Canna-Heads. We'll see you guys next week at 7:30 p.m. And I should have had this figured out before.
In the meantime, y'all are awesome. Love your fucking faces.
Oh boy. Okay. That. We'll do that. All right. Bye-bye.
I was in the Army for 6 years, and I sustained a bunch of injuries. The type of pain that I had was so severe that they just kept giving me these heavy drugs. So I ended up in like a fog, not able to function. I started taking the kratom as a tea, and I started to feel a little better, got rid of the pain. My mind was definitely clear. I want us to talk to our legislators so they can promote policies that promote pure and safe kratom.
Go to protectkratom.org to tell your elected official to protect kratom.